Thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be back in Prague after a few years of not being able to be in Prague. So that's a very positive thing about this. Let's click on from there. So my name is Alan James. I work for Outeach, and I will confess we are Outeach users too, which probably won't be a surprise to people. My role, as Jacob introduced me earlier, I'm building a channel and a partner team at Outeach. But my background, I've worked at a couple of SaaS companies previously in both direct sales and building channel. So very much helping those companies build into the market, always with a sort of European focus, and always in the technology space. So that's my background. And interesting, just to give another thought, as a channel manager and building partnerships, I also use Outeach and sequences in there as well. So it is very much that multi-sales community place. I'm not really going to be talking about Outeach in this session. I'm going to be more focusing on a survey that we commissioned from Forrester, and the feedback from that in terms of what sales leaders are looking at, what their concerns are, what they want from their sales reps, what they want from their sales managers, and how that plays out going forward. So that's going to be the majority of this discussion. I will say some great things about us just as a way of introduction, but I think we, as an organization, we are a software company ourselves. We're selling globally, particularly in Europe and North America are our main markets. We have our own SDR function, we have our own account executive function, customer success, and so on. But we very much aim to help those fast-growing organizations grow even faster. So that's what we've spent a lot of the last sort of 2 or 3 years doing. And we are currently sort of still at sort of the VC stage. Can't say really anything, but hopefully we're moving away from that in due course. But we've been through funding rounds, we've been through expansion through that, and along the way we've attracted investment from some of the large CRM players as well. So that has helped us in our growth journey as we are going through. I mentioned on the very opening slide, you saw it there, the sales execution gap. Not going to spend very long on this, and if you want to go and look further, feel free to go to the Outeach.io website or just Google sales execution gap and Outeach. You'll see more information on this. But we focus on really getting rid of inefficiencies, inconsistencies, and lack of data across the whole sales process. So whether that's at top of funnel, where we've got activities and interactions with potential clients, or whether it's further down the process in terms of those meetings and then driving through the buyer process and helping our sales teams and other sales teams work directly with buyers. And also from a platform perspective, we engage in forecasting through AI and machine learning as well. So we look at the processes across these different areas as we go through. And then we break that down into what we call engage, guide, and commit across the platform. So very much as we're hearing about then, the use of sequences, and then email sentiment analysis. So as emails come back in from prospects and customers and so forth, they get analyzed through the system to understand, as Ivana was talking about, sort of objections, is there no budget now? Is it the wrong timing? Very much giving the sales team insights into the thinking of those clients. So as you as you work through different sequences, work through with different prospects, you can really start to understand what is coming back on a general level, and if you're seeing trends in that feedback. So that's the engage side. Within Guide, as we know it, we focus on things like success plans for the accounts executives. So what are those processes that you need to get done in a sales activity to get the business closed? So you might need to have a security review. You need to share sort of documentation on the support and what they get around sort of KPIs around support. You need to get somebody to review the terms and conditions. You might need product people involved. So success plans help the seller and the buyer agree that process and the stages and who should be involved. And then commit at the far end. I won't talk about this very much today, but that forecasting and really helping companies drive accuracy in forecasting. And as we move into the survey results, you'll see that's one of those areas that comes back from sales leaders. So last thing on the outreach side, very much we're looking to drive increased activity, positive interactions, greater meetings, and so forth. Okay. Let's move on to the survey results. Now, this survey was done sort of end of last year. The sales teams in the market who are responding to this, there was a background of, the pandemic still at its height, obviously various global upheavals, should we say, in place, obviously now inflationary pressures and so forth. So background to the survey, there's a lot that sales teams have to deal with in terms of what their clients and customers and prospects are thinking about. And of course, technology innovation never stands still. So we are at a time where you are able to analyze more and more data faster and faster, which I'm sure a number of people in this room could probably tell me a lot more about than I know. But the technology side of things allows you to process terabytes and terabytes of data, as we do through our platform, as others do through their platform, in terms of whether it's video, whether it's speech, whether it's other forms of data. Innovation through technology is something that all companies want to make the most of. So the survey was done. We had over 200 people responding to this survey, primarily B2B sales leaders, various different levels, looking at what they want in their organizations. And let's look at what those sort of key findings and high levels were. So first in here, a digital-first mindset is essential. So an expectation amongst the sales team that they will engage with all of the digital tools, but also digital routes to market and ways to work with and understand their prospects and customers. Up-to-date and modern skill set. And we heard about onboarding of salespeople, but also, I think, very much that ongoing education and saying, okay, what do our sales teams need now in terms of helping them drive their processes. One thing that sales leaders came back with a lot, the ability to forecast effectively and efficiently, and that was quite a big play in this survey as well. I think there was a lot of feeling that there was a lot of finger in the air forecasting going on, and perhaps wasn't really data driven in terms of where it was coming from. And then priority focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, managing a very mixed sales team, where people are selling into different geographies, different locations, different age groups, and so forth, being able to work with inclusively that wider group of people. I want to expand just on these, a couple of these, probably a bit more, and just to say, you'll have access to these slides afterwards. I believe they'll be sent around. So there's a lot of content in here, and so you don't need to scribble it all down. So question first, what factors will impact your go-to-market strategy in the next 18 months? Number one, shift to digital commerce. Very much, I think, as we see across the board, whether we're in a traditional sales area, whether we're interacting with our customers digitally, or whether we're selling digitally, shift to digital commerce was one of that number one area that the sales leaders are looking at. But second behind that, changing buyer preferences, how they want to interact with us as a seller. So, a bit more to follow on that. And then number three, uncertain environmental and sort of a lot of the sort of current issues as well. So backing up on that, what are the most valuable attributes in a sales rep? So that question was asked. Interestingly, number two here, we have, I think, what we historically think of as something that a sales rep brings into this, which is that relationship builder. But it did come behind adaptive to technology and digital capabilities. So someone who can come in and work with the systems in place at the organization, and also work with the customers' systems as well. So whether they have buying platforms and so forth, and how those buying teams want to receive data and actually interact. And then some more traditional skill sets, creative problem solver, and then industry expertise based in there. So a nice mix of traditional, but very much 59% adaptive to those digital capabilities. And there was a feeling from the feedback from the survey that updating, adapting those skills is an absolutely key thing that sales leaders want managers and reps to embrace. So 55% of sales leaders believe reps need new or updated skills to turn, and then I think this is a key phrase that was coming out, to turn data into insights. So looking at everything we know about the interaction, the sales process, the feedback, and actually saying, right, based on historic situations, based on something going on in that sector, based on something in that geography, how can I use that data to better understand my next step, what I'm going to ask, and so forth. And then 58% of sales leaders believe their reps need to make better use of existing tools in the tech stack. So actually, work with the technologies that a company has. So embrace them and actually make the best of them. And again, we see feedback considering the skills sellers need to succeed. We see the feedback in here of, yes, building long-term relationships, but then a lot around data and insights. So infuse data and insights into customer presentations and prospect presentations. So make sure you pick up on what you've learnt and feed it back. And then transform data into insights coming through there. So, it's quite interesting as you then move a little bit from the feedback about, okay, what do I want from a sales rep? We now have the feedback about what I want in a sales manager. And I think it's very interesting here. Again, some traditional skill sets still coming through. Strong coaching skills, still a key area. Empathetic and caring approach to management, coming in there. But then, number one, ability to consume, analyze, and act on that data. So actually, as a sales manager, sales leaders want their sales managers to be able to understand the information in front of them and what that means in a particular situation. And I think that keeps coming through in the other areas of this survey feedback. So very consistent. Again, turn data and analytics into insights, and then sort of into that, some of those more traditional areas. But, so understanding and that data and using it, and then being able to lead deal strategy sessions, building a diverse team. But interestingly enough, we start to see, and this sort of comes out further down as we look at the makeup of the teams. So help sales reps maintain their mental health. So that sort of empathetic ask. So you have to be an empathetic people manager, but able to act on the data and turn that into insights. Okay, not going to dwell on this very much. Please feel free to look at the slides on this afterwards. There's some very interesting numbers in the forecasting feedback area. So 60% of sales leaders say their forecast methodology is inconsistent or qualitative in nature. And almost half of sales leaders say they typically miss forecasts by 15 to 25%. So, it's I think certainly from some numbers I saw from the US, the most common reason for a CRO to leave a business is not necessarily building the business as quickly as is required, but is actually missing and being out consistently on forecasting. So a lot of feedback in that survey on the forecasting side. Please go and have a look at that. There's a good breakdown of typically where companies are finishing compared to their forecast, and there's more we can do there. And the final area, again, encourage you to go and look at the material afterwards. So what are the top challenges you currently face in your role, around this workforce dynamic area? Number one, leading a multi-generational sales team. So that came out as number one. So very much looking across the board from your youngest, early 20s, or even maybe less, member of the sales team to your older member of the sales team. And people are at different stages in their digital journey, and basically be able to manage all of that together. And then number two, the pace at which buyers are evolving is absolutely key. And I think one thing I was going to pull out of here, just on that thought about who we are currently selling to. So now this wasn't from the Forrester survey, it came from a LinkedIn state of sales survey. 40% of millennials say they make B2B purchase decisions. So very much when you think about who we're selling to, a lot of what we've seen coming out, part of this has been, I think, the changing demographic of buyers, but also the changing nature of selling a bit via Zoom and Teams and Google Meets and things like that. is we see a greater wish for collaboration in the buying process. So including more people into that selection of a vendor. And that is sort of borne out in, we've been seeing over a number of years, the number of interactions to close a deal has been getting higher. So the number of people, for example, from an outreach perspective, you need to have in sequence, and you need to make sure that in a success plan, they are included, so you get their input is increasing. So I think it's very interesting to reflect on that, I hope, in terms of what we need to do as sellers to really adjust to the buying cycle, and then also in terms of looking at those skill sets and the mindset, and also boiling that down into what makes a great sales rep. Collaboration, embraces hybrid methods, builds relationships, but has a data-driven mindset and digital first. What makes a great sales manager? Effectuates positive change, but ingests data, but champions career development, gains leverage, coaches in hybrid formats, and gets predictable cross-team production. I mean, I think this is quite a big ask, but this is what came back from the sales leaders in an expectation of a sales manager. But hopefully you can look at those again, reflect on those, and very happy to take questions now, questions afterwards, or even by email from there. So thank you for your attention.